MLAs have been at the Saskatchewan Legislature for a week now, and it's already getting heated. Yesterday, opposition leader Ryan Miley spoke up about the attack advertisements against him, saying the ads are full of lies. And more criticism from Scott Moe towards the federal government, saying it's not doing enough for Western Canada. To break all of this down for us, I'm joined by our political reporter, Adam Hunter. So Adam, first off, these ads, what can you tell us about that?
Well, they've really been ramping up over the past number of weeks. They're paid for by the Saskatchewan Party. They're running, you might see one tonight on the newscast during the commercial break, and they're targeting Ryan Miley specifically. A couple of them call him out of touch with Saskatchewan. The other one says he stands with Trudeau, who is of course not very popular right now here in Saskatchewan. And Ryan Miley is taking offense to some of the things said in those ads. They say that he appeared at anti-pipeline rallies, that he balked at supporting the government's new plan for an equalization formula, and that he supports a modest carbon tax. And he seemed to really take offense to that during the session in question period, and we asked him about that afterwards.
What's really disappointing, though, is the way he's doing it. Those are ugly American-style attack ads. They're full of lies. There's not a single true statement in any of those ads. Some of them are so outrageous, saying things like, we don't care about equalization, when for years New Democrats have been fighting for a fair formula for equalization.
So Adam, what did the Premier say about these ads?
The Premier says that they're legit, that they're taking words and statements that Ryan Miley's made, and that's what's in the ads, and he backs these ads. He says there's nothing wrong with them.
The ads are completely factual. Where's the incorrectness? I mean, he is in many cases it uses his own words.
All right, moving towards the coming weeks, we're going to be getting the budget. The opposition is already foreshadowing a deficit budget, and the government says it's on track to balance. What is the state of the government's finances?
Yeah, those two don't really square themselves, do they? They can't be the same. It's going to be really interesting to see, because the government made this promise that 3 years back to balance. We're out now in that year where they have to come back to the balance to keep their promise. And they've said all along, going back to last year's budget, they're on track to meet that balance. We'll have to see what that is on March 20th. They're not giving away any hints. Sometimes we see these trial balloons where they float out something that may be in the budget, but we're really getting no hints. The NDP is saying they expect some tricks in the budget to balance the books, but we'll have to wait for a couple of weeks to see that, Christy.
Well, we've also been hearing this week about the building in Wascana Park. It continues to be a controversial subject. How is that issue shaping up?
It's become one of the main issues early on in the session. Of course, we were only in the first week, and it's right next door at our window where Brandt's planning to build an office building, which will house the CNIB. And the crux of the issue this week was what kind of deal the CNIB and Brandt are getting. That their lease is going to be $1 a year, whereas Connexus, who's around the corner from us, is paying much more per acre per year. So there's some questions about that. The government's saying we're following the processes. But the NDP says you change the processes, you change the rules. So that's going to continue to be an issue, I think, over the next number of weeks.
Well, we saw this week Scott Moe learning to dance like a moose. I mean, that was a very
huge highlight.
Yes, a very big highlight of the session this week. But also a lot of drama in Ottawa surrounding the SNC-Lavalin affair. What does Scott Moe say about where the Prime Minister's attention should be?
He says the Prime Minister is really, his words were preoccupied with what's happening in Ottawa. That's what in Quebec, and those are the Prime Minister's own words. He's preoccupied with the potential job loss of 9,000 jobs at SNC-Lavalin. Scott Moe is saying you should be worried about the jobs here. There's 10 times the number of jobs in Canada in the energy sector that are being lost, partly due to the economy, partly due to government policies. That's what Scott Moe says. And he was pretty hard on the Prime Minister.
He is preoccupied with the jobs in Quebec, were his words, and then across Canada. We are also preoccupied with the jobs that we have in this province, and I've said in the energy industry alone in this nation, we've lost over 100,000 of those jobs. When you compare that to 9,000 jobs that the Prime Minister seems to be very preoccupied with today, we would ask him to talk and ask his Minister of Environment to scrap Bill C-69, scrap the carbon tax bill.
That's been a familiar script from Scott Moe over the past number of months. Him versus Trudeau and the federal government and the Environment Minister. I expect to hear more of that in the next number of weeks while the session goes. It's a long time. It's 10 more weeks of this, and this SNC thing doesn't look like it's going away. So we should expect to hear more criticism from the Premier to the Prime Minister.
Already a very busy session, and it's only one weekend. Thank you so much for this today.
You're welcome.